get over to Paula Reed, who has more information about what is in this decision from Judge Scott McAfee. Paula, what do you know?
So the top line here is that the judge has ruled that the district attorney, Fani Willis, can continue on this case against former President Trump and over a dozen other defendants. But he does address this issue of an appearance of a conflict, because the big question here is whether there was an actual conflict. The defendants were alleging that Fani Willis, not only that she had this romantic relationship with the lead prosecutor on the Trump case, but that she also benefited financially. And he had to decide, the judge had to sort of do this analysis. Is it enough that this just looks bad, that there's an appearance of a conflict, or did they need to prove, did the defendants, Trump and his co-defendants, need to prove that there was an actual conflict? Now, again, I say that DA Fani Willis can stay on this case, but it also appears that the judge is saying that this appearance issue needs to be addressed before this can go forward. So this appears to be a pretty nuanced ruling, but the headline is that the district attorney and her office can stay on this case. But we continue to read to learn more about exactly what the judge is saying about how you need to address the appearance of impropriety.
All right, Paula Reed with the headline there, and it is a big one, which is that District Attorney Fani Willis can stay on the case. She is not disqualified. Ellie Honig, her office is not disqualified. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office can continue to prosecute these crimes.
Yeah, that is the bottom line, biggest takeaway here. Fani Willis can remain on the case. It sounds like the judge has found there was not an actual conflict of interest, not a provable financial conflict of interest. Important to keep in mind, the defendants, Donald Trump and the other charged defendants, they're the ones who bore the burden of proof here. They had to prove there was a financial conflict of interest, and apparently, based on our initial readings of this ruling, they have not carried that burden. Now, we'll see if the judge has some other sort of measures that he suggests. We'll see if he has any harsh words for Fani Willis or her office. But yes, the bottom line is the DA stays on the case, hence her office stays on the case, hence it can continue to move forward. And as we said before, they don't have a set trial date yet. The DA has asked for a trial in August. I don't think that's remotely realistic, but it will continue. It will not be put into this sort of suspended animation that it otherwise would have gone into.
Stay with us right now. We're going to go to Paula Reed. She's got some more information. You're going through this right now and looking through the judge's ruling, and there are some harsh words in it, we understand?
There are. To Ellie's point, the judge, while he has not removed Fani Willis from the case, he does have some considerable criticism for her. He's saying, look, without sufficient evidence that the district attorney acquired a personal stake in this prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case. So there he's addressing the fact that they didn't really prove that she benefited from Wade being on this case when she was in a romantic relationship. She said the defendant's claims of an actual conflict must be denied. So he's like, look, you didn't prove that she had any sort of benefit that she received from the money Nathan Wade was making from this case. But he said this finding is by no means any indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Rather, it is the undersigned, the judge's opinion that Georgia law does not permit the finding of an actual conflict for simply making bad choices. So this is pretty significant. I mean, he is suggesting that he's saying that she had a tremendous lapse in judgment, that she was unprofessional when she testified. Remember, she was getting pretty contentious, pretty fiery with the defense attorney, insisting that she was not on trial, when in fact they were asking her questions because the judge was assessing whether she needed to be disqualified. And then also saying here that she made bad choices. And look, even though she's going to stay on the case, all of this, especially this language from the judge, and we're just skimming the opinion right now, I'm sure there's likely more, it's really a gift to former President Trump and his co-defendants, because they're not only going to fight this case on the merits, they fight it in the court of public opinion. Optics here matter. He has tried to undermine trust in the justice system. And if you have a judge who's overseeing a case calling the prosecutor, again, unprofessional, saying that she made a bad decision, she had a lapse in judgment, that is a lot of ammunition for the former president and his co-defendants.
Paula, thank you so much. Paula's going to continue to bring us the headlines. Paula, stick close and just let us know. We also have Michael Moore, former U.S. Attorney, joining us as well. Michael, your take on what the nuance, as Paula has laid out, the headline, Fani Willis not disqualified from the case, not dismissed from the case. Her office is still handling this case, but the words and the criticisms coming from the judge about her unprofessional manner, as he says it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be with you. This was a self-inflicted wound that should have been healed and taken care of months ago, but basically they've just let it get infected now to this place where the district attorney has been called by a court that she has to practice in front of, frankly, and her office has to practice in front of. She's been called now unprofessional. And this, frankly, it is a gift to the defense, I believe, as they will use this as they talk about whether or not the case has merit or whether or not it was brought for other reasons, whether or not it's a professional prosecutor and all that. We're going to hear all that down the road. But we're also going to hear, I expect, comments from the Georgia legislature as they have moved forward with their panel inquiry into her conduct. We're going to hear now this finding echoed around the halls of Congress by the likes of, people like Jim Jordan and things like that. So this is not a good day for the state, and it's not a good look for the state. But remember, this could have been remedied as we go through the order now. This initial problem and this appearance could have been nipped in the bud. And I don't know why it was left to fester. But now, it's basically caused gangrene of the limb, and the judge is saying, look, we're removing it if we're going forward. And that's where we're at today.
Well, not so much, right? I mean, she's allowed to continue prosecuting the case. The case is still in the DA's office, so there is an element of it. I understand that politically it is now loaded with a lot of comments from a judge here. But the case, the alternative, Michael, was that this judge could have said this case no longer can be prosecuted by the Fulton County's DA, and that would have put it into a complete limbo where no one may have been prosecuting it for months and months and months now.
This is the same judge now that's going to oversee this case. And this is not what you want going into a judge if you're a prosecutor or a lawyer on the side of the case where you've already been called unprofessional. And so and I don't think politically she's got to worry. I mean, she's in a Democrat county. She's liked by many people in her personal and professional capacity. I don't think she's got to worry about whether or not somebody runs against her and uses this as some big trumpet that they're going to beat her at the polls. This is about how the case looks going forward, and now whether or not when a representation is made by the state in court, whether or not the judge believes that. And so this paints the entire picture. The case may go forward. I mean, the case could have gone forward anyway. The prosecuting attorney's council could have appointed somebody. But this case, I will tell you, I don't believe is going forward before the election. It doesn't matter if Fani Willis is prosecuting it, or some prosecutor that's appointed from wherever. This case is not going to move forward in a way. And I think the judge is saying you've got to clean up your house before if we're going to deal with this case. So it is not a good thing. It is no lawyer wants to be in front of a judge arguing motions, asking for things, deny.
Michael, hang on. We're going to jump in here, Michael. Michael, we're just going to jump in because we got to get back to Paula Reed, who's got some more information from the actual ruling. Paula.
Yeah, look, I do agree with Michael's point there about the timing on when this case can go forward. Fani Willis originally said she wanted to bring it in August. This process to attempt to disqualify her has certainly eaten up some time. But now there's another issue she needs to address, and that is the fate of the lead prosecutor for this investigation, Nathan Wade, who she had a romantic relationship with. The judge here, just like he had some harsh words for Fani Willis, also has some pretty strong language related to Mr. Wade. Here he calls Wade's testimony, his explanation for some incorrect information that he submitted, quote, unpersuasive. He also describes his conduct as showing a willingness to wrongfully conceal his relationship with the district attorney. The judge said, as the case moves forward, reasonable members of the public could easily be left to wonder whether the financial exchanges between Wade and the district attorney have continued, resulting in some form of benefit to the district attorney, or whether the romantic relationship has resumed. I think you read between the lines, you lied once, you could potentially lie again, or could reasonably think that the district attorney is not exercising her independent professional judgment totally free of any compromising influences. He says, and here's the key quote, as long as Wade remains on this case, the unnecessary perception will persist. Basically saying because of what has happened during this process, what they've learned, the fact that Mr. Wade was not always honest with the court, he said this is going to hang this cloud of distrust over this case. And he is suggesting that Nathan Wade needs to be removed. Now, he does not, as I understand it, order him to be removed, but he's walking up to the line and saying he's got to go. Now, some people have previously called for Nathan Wade and or Fani Willis to step aside. Neither one of them have done that. Neither one of them have given any indication they intend to do that, but it's impossible to see really how this case would go forward, certainly not before the election, with Mr. Wade at the helm, when you have the judge overseeing the case saying, look, he's got to go.